In the world of anime and manga, a lot of time you have a headstrong protagonist who is always willing to help the innocent and beat the bad guys to save the day. And it helps if they have a group of friends who are also their greatest power.
And that very specific protagonist cliche fits these two icons of the industry to a T.
Monkey D. Luffy, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates of One Piece.
And Natsu Dragneel, the Fairy Tail Guild's very own Fire Dragon Slayer.
He's Demon and I'm Archer.
And it's our job to analyze these characters to their fullest, going through their feats and faults to see what happens when these two fictional characters collide.
Wealth, fame, power. Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, attained this and everything else the world had to offer, and his dying words drove countless men to the seas. You want my treasure? You can have it. I left everything I gathered in one place, now you just have to find it. These words lured men to the Grand Line in pursuit of dreams greater than they'd ever dared to imagine. This was the time known as the Great Pirate Era.
Several dangerous pirates heard these words and immediately set out to the Grand Line for greatness. Pirates like Don Quixote, Do Flamengo, Gecko Moria, Dragneel, Mihawk, and Sir Crocodile all traveled the world to find Roger's treasure, the One Piece, which would make them the new king of the pirates. But out of the thousands of rookie pirates who had ventured in pursuit of that One Piece, one truly stood above all the rest, and it made it his mission to find it. But who was this boy with a carefree attitude, unlimited appetite, and the inherited will passed down from one king to a future one? Well, his name would soon send shockwaves across the entire globe in infamy. This is the tale of Monkey D. Luffy.
Growing up in Fuchsia Village with his two adoptive brothers, Ace and Sabo, they spent their time doing what all brothers do, beat the crap out of anything and anyone they see. Well, it wasn't so bad. They grew up with the mountain bandit Dadan, who was the closest thing to a mother the three boys had. And occasionally, Luffy's grandpa, the hero of the Marines, Monkey D. Garp, would visit. But he'd mostly just beat the ever-living hell out of Luffy to try and get him to become a Marine.
You know, I can appreciate the fact that this man's main hobbies, including trusting criminals with his grandkids, chucking cannonballs like they were baseballs, and punching sentient islands to death. It is Garp an idiot, because I don't think that's how you get someone to be on your side.
You'd be correct. It didn't work. Like, it backfired exponentially. Maybe it's due to the borderline child abuse, or maybe it's because Luffy met a certain pirate who blew his mind, red-haired Shanks. He's a chill guy who just loves hanging out with his buds. Luffy fell in love with his lifestyle and demanded to be a part of his crew, but he was just a wee bit too young.
Despite the fact that Shanks had Uta, his 9-year-old daughter, on his crew, but semantics. After attempt to try and join his crew, Luffy got angry, and in his blind 7-year-old fury, he ate a bizarre fruit which would change the course of history itself. This was a devil fruit, a special fruit that gives whoever eats it superpowers, but at one big cost, and that is being able to swim.
You dumbass!
But then Luffy would end up in the middle of the sea, but fortunately Shanks saved him from the Sea King. The bad news is that he walked out of that ocean missing one less arm. Luffy was heartbroken at this, but Shanks just laughed it off and said he'd do anything for a friend. Luffy then made a promise to make a crew that would beat and surpass Shanks' crew. So Shanks gave Luffy a marketable straw hat, and told him to give back the hat once he became a mighty pirate. But Luffy took that bet in strides. With that devil fruit he ate, he gained a downright broken ability.
He's made of rubber! How did that happen?
Demon, I'm not saying it.
Say it!
Yo ho ho, we took a bite out of Gum Gum.
God, I can't believe that gum actually exists. Classic.
Well, the devil fruit that he ate was known as the Gum Gum fruit, a fruit that turned Luffy's entire body into rubber. With it, he can stretch his limbs around like, well, rubber. It also makes Luffy basically immune to bullets, as they literally bounce right off of him. But he's still vulnerable to things like swords and knives.
And with his rubber body, he's developed several techniques, like his infamous Gum Gum pistol, where he stretches his arms way back and punches his foe with tremendous force, perfect for taking down your average grunts. And he used several other techniques like Gum Gum Bazooka, where he uses both arms instead of one, Gum Gum Gatling in a fury of punches, Gum Gum Bullet is like a Gum Gum pistol but running, Gum Gum Bowgun has Luffy grab his opponents with his feet and spin them around and slam them into the ground, Gum Gum Rifle spins his arms around like a drill, and Gum Gum Cannon subjects of Gatling and Bazooka. But if Luffy's feeling defensive, he can inflate his body to use Gum Gum Balloon. With this move, even cannibals bounce off him with zero issue.
Huh. Seems creativity isn't Luffy's strong suit when it comes to naming things. But still, with Luffy's kind-hearted nature and unwillingness to give up on anything he set his mind to, he managed to gather the likes of Vonora Zoro, Cat Burglar Nami, God Usopp, Vinsmoke Sanji, Tony Chopper, Nico Robin, Iron Pirate Frankie, the Soul King Brook, and the former pirate warlord and first son of the sea Jinbei. Together with this band of misfits and outcasts, they would be called the Straw Hat Pirates, with Monkey D. Luffy as their fearless captain. They would sail to find Laugh Tale, the location of the One Piece, and in finding it, Luffy would become the king of the pirates. But, unlike a lot of other goals in anime and manga, becoming the king of pirates doesn't mean you're the strongest person in the world. It simply makes you the freest man alive. That's why Luffy's so hellbent on becoming the king of pirates. To be free.
Luffy also has an extraordinary power minus his rubber body that is arguably even more powerful than that. That power is the power to make friends anywhere in the world. From the depths of the sea to the peaks of the very sky, Luffy has made all sorts of allies. Hell, after kicking the snot out of Doflamingo, he gained a whole ass fleet, known as the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. At first, Luffy was against this, but they made a promise that if Luffy ever needed them, they'd be at his beck and call in an instant. The uncanny power to make friends anywhere is the reason why the world government has placed a 3 billion berry bounty on this man's head.
Nope, they placed it on his head because Luffy is straight up a monster in terms of combat. He can send average marines flying away with no sweat and has defeated several notorious pirates and world government members in the past. His rubber body makes most attacks literally bounce off him, while acting as a perfect offense as well. And despite being an absolute moron outside of combat, on the battlefield he's kind of a genius. Like the time he used his own blood to be able to harm Crocodile, a pirate who was impervious to all forms of pain due to his devil fruit, which turned him into sand. Sheesh, that's hardcore. It also helps that he's insanely fast. Like how Luffy dodged these laser beams from a Pacifista. Dodging them from this range and how he did it must have meant Luffy was traveling at around 12 times the speed of light.
But if Luffy is having some issues, he can always activate his stronger forms, as he calls them, gears. Here too rushes blood throughout his body to such a level he glows pink and starts to steam. When he used this technique for the first time against Luno stated how anyone else did a technique like this, they die in seconds. But no dice with Luffy's rubber body. In this form, his strength and speed are amped up to 10 times. But when he first used it, Luna said how this would definitely cut off his lifespan by a few years. But luckily, Luffy has gotten used to it, so he doesn't lose his lifespan while using it anymore. Or he just doesn't care anymore, who knows.
However, if Luffy needs a bit more power, he can activate Gear 3, which inflates parts of his body to ludicrous degrees. From a giant fearsome kick to a mighty powerful punch will do any foe in. Just ask our favorite transforming leopard assassin, Lucci. Ooh, I'm sure he's gonna feel that one in the morning. Given the size of Lucci and how big Luffy's punch is, Luffy must have punched Lucci with a force equivalent to 112 tons of TNT. That's like being hit with a bullet train going at max speed while having every car in it be filled to the max with dynamite.
Holy hell! Yeah, no wonder why people thought Lucci was unstoppable. He's taken down 3 out of the 7 warlords of the sea, who's some of the strongest and dangerous pirates in the world. Accidentally seduced one of them, and recruited one of them to his crew, and broke into Impel Down, and then proceeded to break out of Impel Down, which is a jail that is meant to be inescapable. And he was only 17 at the time.
Luffy and his crew were so powerful that both he and Zoro became part of the 11 Supernovas. Luffy himself was second place right behind Eustace Captain Kidd. But on that fateful day on Sabaody Archipelago, things got messy. So after Luffy punched his celestial dragon in the face, the world government sent the warlord Bartholomew Kuma, and one by one he sent all of Luffy's crew away, all onto separate islands, away from one another. Luffy had just lost his crew in a matter of minutes, but then Luffy found out his brother Ace got captured by the deadly Marshal D. Teach, or better known as Blackbeard. He captured Ace to make himself a warlord of the sea.
But like hell that was gonna stop Luffy. So he teamed up with his old foes, Crocodile and Buggy, and literally fell into the center of the single biggest war the world has ever seen, aka the Summit War, where the Marines and 7 warlords banded together to face off against Whitebeard, one of the 4 emperors of the sea.
Luffy had freed Ace, but as they were running back to safety, Admiral Akanu caught wind and chased them, leading to Ace taking the hit for Luffy. With a hole in his chest, Ace's dying actions were to hug his younger brother and with tears in his eyes, thanked Luffy for loving someone who didn't deserve love in the first place, and that he was so happy to be called Luffy's brother. And then Ace perished, dying happy that at least his brother was safe. In a matter of hours, Luffy had lost both his crew and his brother. Luffy was broken, he cried, begged for all this to just be a bad dream, that he'd wake up and everything would be fine again, but it never happened. It wasn't a dream. But then Luffy realized something. Despite the fact that they were all separated, his crewmates, no, his family were still out there, and that they would one day return. You good, Demon?
No, Archer, I'm not! It's not fair! Luffy never deserved this!
Do you feel better?
Yeah.
That's good. So, Luffy returned to Marineford where the war happened, not only to pay respects to his fallen brother, but to ring a bell 16 times. This was to send a message to all his crewmates that, in 2 years, they will train and meet up at Sabaody Archipelago, because they still have to find Laugh-Tale and the One Piece.
Luckily, during those 2 years, Luffy trained with a powerful figure, Silver's Rayleigh. Just who is he? Oh, he's no one special. He was just the right-hand man to Gold fucking Rogers! Yeah, this old man just so happened to be basically the king of the pirates, second in command. And seeing Luffy's determination, the fact that the Straw Hat Shanks gave him was given to Shanks by Roger when he was a kid. He trained Luffy day and night for 2 years straight.
There, Rayleigh had taught Luffy how to use a technique that would dramatically increase his power. He'd teach Luffy Haki. Haki is a spiritual energy that exists somewhat in every living being out there, and with it comes numerous varieties of ways to use it, and Luffy became a master at all forms of Haki. With Armament Haki, Luffy's skin turns as hard as steel. He can either use it to boost his defense to a point where he's basically immune to damage, or what he uses it more for is to enhance his punches into massive Haki-infused punches.
Then there's Observation Haki, a form of Haki that allows you to predict oncoming attacks with no sweat. Luffy is so good at Observation Haki that his own Observation Haki was enough to outdo Katakuri's own Observation Haki and beat him. And Katakuri was such a pro at it that he could see the future come literal seconds in the future.
Then we have the almighty powerful Conqueror's Haki. This form of Haki can only be used by a select few people. They need to have the Conqueror's spirit. What that exactly is a mystery, however. But what this does is essentially overwhelm a person's will and mind to bend their knee to the user, which in layman's terms means they get knocked the hell out.
But then there is actually a fourth variant of Haki, one few people know about and one fewer people can use, Rio. This Haki, exclusive to Wano country, bypasses a person's defenses and destroys them from the inside. As in, if Luffy punches you with Ryo, you are going to essentially explode from the inside. That's some Fist of the North Star type shit, I'm telling you.
That's not all, however. Luffy learned much more than just Haki with Rayleigh. He also learned how to harness flames and use Red Hawk, a powerful flaming fist that has a stronger version of it called Red Rock. By combining it with Armament Haki in Gear 3, it's so strong that it can even deal serious damage to Emperors of the Sea, who can survive 10,000 meter drops from the sky without a scratch on them.
Wait, how the hell did Luffy summon those flames to begin with?
Well, some people believe that it's Ace's will from beyond the grave igniting the punch with his flames, but that's just a theory.
A manga theory.
Stop it.
Aw.
Luffy also uses a boatload of Haki for his next transformation, the mighty Gear 4. Gear 4 coats his whole body in Haki, which makes him even stronger. He's fast enough to fly around with ease and unleash devastating blows with King Kong Gun and King Kong Gatling. Let's just hope Universal's lawyers don't watch or read One Piece, and then we're good. Gear 4 is so strong he can match Bullet, whose punches, as stated by law, are capable of splitting islands in half.
Punch can split an island in half.
There are more versions of Gear 4 than just that one. The one Archer just brought up is Bounce Man, the Gear 4 technique that specializes in power. There's also Gear 4 Tank Man, which, yeah, we don't talk about Tank Man. The last and coolest is Gear 4 Snake Man. This variant of it specializes in raw speed. In this form, his punches can bend and twist mid-punch to throw off foes. And he can utilize certain moves such as King Cobra Gun with it.
All this came ahead when Luffy and Co. reached the land of Wano, territory of one of the 4 Emperors of the Sea and the King of Beasts, Kaido. An Oni who has the power to turn into a goddamn dragon.
You know how people can say certain characters are built like a brick shithouse? Yeah, I think in One Piece, brick shithouses are built like Kaido. Kaido proved to be Luffy's greatest foe yet. Hell, he's so strong that when he and Luffy clash, they split the sky itself. That would require both Luffy and Kaido to be hitting with around 1.3 petatons of TNT each to pull that off.
On their clash on top of Onigashima, it shook the heavens itself. But then Kaido got one more blow in on Luffy, and then his heart stopped. Luffy had died, but then his heart started to beat a weird rhythm. As Luffy's hair and clothes turned bleach white and clouds formed around him, his devil fruit had finally awakened as the drums of liberation were heard for the first time in 800 years. The Song of Freedom played as Luffy couldn't help but laugh, proclaiming that he had reached his peak. For the first time in 800 years, Joy Boy had returned.
Context?
Yeah, so turns out 800 years ago, this guy named Joy Boy had Luffy's devil fruit. He was stated to be a man who, wherever he went, laughter and joy would follow, hence the name Joy Boy. The Gum Gum fruit was a fake name for the fruit. In the recorded history of devil fruits since they first appeared, there was no such thing as the Gum Gum fruit to begin with. Instead, on that fateful day in Fuchsia Village, Luffy had eaten the human fruit mythical model, Sun God Nika.
These names are getting stupid.
It's anime. We'll roll with it.
Yeah, good point. This is the power of Luffy's Peak, Gear 5. In this form, he gains the power to basically do whatever the hell he wants. He essentially is a living comic strip or a cartoon. He can run on thin air, hit someone so hard their eyes pop out of their head, grab lightning bolts from the sky and use them as weapons, grow giant size, make stuff out of thin air, and even lift the ground to reflect stuff. I mean, look at this crap.
Mommy.
He redirected Kaido's blast breath with no issue, which was an attack that blew up a mountain. He could also throw around Kaido's dragon form with little effort, like he was playing Mario 64. Now, Kaido's dragon form varies in length from shot to shot, but at its most consistent, it's around 5 miles in length.
But Gear 5 is certainly not perfect. While it is incredibly strong and makes Luffy nearly impossible to put down, it does come with the drawback of the form only lasting for so long before Luffy's body shuts down the transformation, and afterward he'll be left super tired and needs a few to recharge. But like hell did it stop Luffy from unleashing his strongest move, Gum Gum Bargerang Gun. A gun that dwarfs Kaido's dragon form, and with it, he punched Kaido so hard, he got sent to the core of the planet in a magma pit. That's one way of beating the strongest creature alive, that's for sure.
And with that, Luffy has become one of the 4 Emperors of the Sea, making him on par with the likes of the Bastard Blackbeard, Zoro, Power Flash, Mentor Shanks, and Buggy the Clown for some reason, I don't know. No matter what pirates or world government officials stand in his way, whether it be the Marines, Blackbeard, Kid, Law, Shanks, or even the secret devils that rule heaven, the world will hear the drums of liberation across the entire globe as come high hell or high water. The next king of the pirates will no doubt be Monkey D. Luffy.
I am Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will surpass you. And I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
In a land far, far away, lies the kingdom of Frior, a small peaceful nation of 17 million, and a place filled with magic. Found in every home, bought and sold in every marketplace. For most, magic is a tool, a mundane part of everyday life. For some, however, magic is an art, and they devoted their lives towards its practice. These are the wizards, banded together into magical guilds. They use their skills in search of fame and fortune. Many such guilds dot the landscape of Frior, but there is a certain guild in a certain town that soars above the rest, one of which countless legends have been born, a guild that will no doubt continue to create legends well into the future. Its name is Fairy Tail.
Welcome, one and all, to the magical guild of Fairy Tail, home to the miscreants and weirdos of Fjord. From ice strippers to bootleg Pokemon trainers call the guild home. However, among its colorful cast of mages, one truly stands above the rest. His fiery spirit is only matched by his preferred magic choice, the Fire Dragon Slayer mage himself, Natsu Dragneel.
My name is Natsu, I'm a fairy tale wizard!
While not the strongest member of the guild, that goes to his not-dad, Guild Arts, which looks a bit familiar. I swear we just talked about this guy. Oh well, while he ain't the strongest, he's certainly one of the most infamous and iconic members of the guild. I mean, he even has a pet talking flying cat for crying out loud.
Happy isn't a pet demon. Joining the guild at a mere 10 years old, Natsu quickly rose the ranks of it, almost becoming an S-class mage, but just falling a wee bit short of it. Whether it's due to his friendly go-getter attitude, hardworking nature, or sheer awesomeness is up for debate.
Nah, it's his fire power. Literally. Natsu specializes in fire magic. More specifically, Fire Dragon Slayer magic. A form of fire magic that used for what else but killing dragons. Which is about above your average fire magic. I mean, it's so hot that he can even burn away time magic. Wait, how is that possible?
Simple. Natsu's fire magic burns so hot that it can melt magic itself. That's one of the many reasons you shouldn't underestimate this mage's flames. Over the years, Natsu had developed lots of mighty techniques with it. He can do the normal shoot fireballs and shoot a beam of fire, but if you think that's all he can do with it, then let me tell you, you're in for a surprise. With Fire Dragon's Claw, he ignites his feet to boost his kicks. With his Fire Dragon's Iron Fist, he sets his hands ablaze and socks the hell out of anybody who annoys him or his friends.
Fire Dragon's Sword Horn sets his whole body on fire, gives his foes and himself one hell of a headache. With Fire Dragon's Crushing Fang and Grip Strike, he can either swipe at the target with a claw-like grip or grab his opponents and shoot a point-blank fire blast. And with Fire Dragon's Roasting Bath, he sets himself on fire so hot that it causes water near him to start reaching scalding levels, or around 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
Anyway, with his Dragon Scales ability, it toughens his skin to give himself a boost in defense, and a boost in the ability to connect your face with the pavement. And if shooting fire wasn't awesome enough, he can straight up consume fire. A fiery meal allows Natsu to restore his energy quickly while in battle, while also having the benefit of catching most folks off guard when Natsu decides to take a chomp out of a bonfire.
Wait. If Natsu can just eat fire, why doesn't he just, eat his own fire to have infinite energy?
It's because, according to Natsu, it's really damn gross. Like, really gross.
Sounds like to me he's just nerfing himself.
Would you want to get stronger via having to eat something that came out of your own body?
You know what? That's a valid point. While he is careless, reckless, and oftentimes picks fights with his own guildmates, Natsu is incredibly loyal and willing to put his life on the line for them, even if he knows that fighting is futile. Do you think that would stop him from trying to help his friends? Hell no! He's the type of guy who'd become your friends 2 minutes ago and then proceeds to take a bullet to the arm for you. Why? Because damn it, you're his friend, and his friends are truly the greatest strength he has.
He considers people like his chilly rival Gray, the loyal and stoic Urza, the bartender Mary Jane, and the newcomer summoner Lucy as not just friends, but family. He considers everyone in the guild to be family, even the guild itself. He'll even let his enemies like Jalal Fernandez become friends and allies because that's just the kind of guy he is. Loyal to the end to his friends, nightmarish to foes.
Nightmarish is right as despite Natsu not being the strongest of the guild, that doesn't mean he's a pushover, far from it. With his Dragon Slayer magic, he can one-hit KO Ukasa Tsunagi, a mountain-sized war god who can carve a chasm into the ground worth 22 megatons of TNT. That's the equivalent of being hit by the nuclear warhead that was dropped on Hiroshima over 1,460 times. Or like when he evaporated Lakes Giliora, which was worth 40 gigatons of TNT. Which, bear in mind, a single gigaton is worth around 1,000 megatons. Man, that's a lot of warheads.
But if you think Natsu is all power and no speed, then you're in for a terrifying surprise.
Yeah, Natsu is incredibly quick, easily being capable of dodging lightning magic from the expelled guild member Laxus. He also ducked under White Dragon Wars from Steam, which would mean he'd have to move around 10% the speed of light. He can also compare to Urza, who could match Nightwalker in speed, which would require Urza and thus Natsu to move around 76% the speed of light. Well, that's not as fast as speed of light, 76% of it is absurd.
Demon's right. For comparison, humans can perceive objects at around 13 milliseconds. 76 the speed of light is around 228 million milliseconds. So to us normal folk, Natsu and Co. would look like they're teleporting faster than the human eye can even blink.
And if he wishes to hit you even harder and faster, he can with his Lightning Fire Dragon mode. This enhanced form lets Natsu use both Scorching Hot Flames and Electrical and Zappy Lightning Strikes, combining both magic types to increase his normal moves tenfold.
At first, this form left Natsu incredibly tired and weak. However, as time has gone by and by using the form more, Natsu can now use the form without a ton of strain on his body.
Man, with all this power and speed, he can't even be human. Right?
Well, a long time ago, in a small, quiet town, there was a happy family
Oh, it's going to be one of those backstories, I gotcha.
that lived in a village, and all seemed well until a dragon out of nowhere attacked the city, killing everyone in it, and leaving only a single survivor, a child named Zareth. And with losing his family, he dabbled in the darker forms of magic to bring back his younger brother. Said brother just so happened to be named Natsu.
Holy shit, Natsu's a zombie!
Shut up. He's more akin to like demons and stuff, hence the dark magic made. But with Zarif realizing this, he handed the kids to Dragneel, who's, well, a dragon.
And the Dragon Dad then raised this Natsu for a couple years before tossing him 400 years into the future to finish a great 400-year plan to stop a great threat. That means the dragons never really abandoned their kids when you think about it. They're most likely all dead. Also, this fairy tale mythical setting now has time travel. Actually, not the first time. Time skips happened a lot in this series, and after this, Natsu later got a form all about this demon side. The Ethereous Natsu Dragneel, also known as END. Wait a minute.
All of this would come to a head when Natsu and the others were on Tenrojima Island, when suddenly, after battling the powerful members of the Grimoire Heart Guild, everything seemed normal when everything went to hell.
And by hell, Archer means that the Black Dragon of the Apocalypse, Agnologia, descended onto the island. Everyone was stunned and tried to run away. However, Natsu, wanting to protect his friends, began to fight Agnologia. And soon it became the Fairy Tale Guild versus Agnologia. The dragon was holding back immensely as all of their magic literally bounced off the beast. Tired of these toys trying to strike back at their master, he flew up into the sky, preparing to wipe out both the Fairy Tale Guild and Tenrojima Island off the map in a gigantic blast.
Realizing that it's hopeless, everyone grabs onto one another, preparing for the worst, as in a single move, Agnologia annihilates the entire island, making the entire world think Natsu and the other members of Fairy Tail were dead. For about 7 years.
Until they were back. When they held hands, they activated the power of the Fairy Spear, a spell that kept everyone in it alive, but frozen in time until Mavis Vermilion used his
You dumbass!
power to bring them back to the present. Natsu, realizing that he needed to be stronger to beat Agnologia, and to protect his friends in Frior, would obtain the peak of this might, the legendary power of Dragon Force.
Dragon Force is the very peak when it comes to Dragon Slayers. Natsu achieved this form when consuming the Flame of Rebuke. Whenever he uses it, he becomes more draconic, forming red scales, his fire becoming golden, and even getting a sick dragon wing. His stats in this form are greatly enhanced, like how he grabbed this massive dragon by the tail and slammed it into the ground, or when he got impaled by thorns all across his body multiple times.
In this form, it stated that Natsu was on par with the genuine dragons, including the likes of Dragneel and Agnologia. Agnologia in particular was stated to have the might to end the world if he so desired.
Natsu and the Fairy Tail Guild would face some of their toughest challenges yet, like when they faced down the almighty power of Irene, the dragon who can use Deus Sima, a magic type that just outright summons giant meteors from the sky. Naturally, being an anime swordsman, Urza leapt into the sky and sliced it in half.
God, what is it with anime swordsmen and slicing meteors in half? Surely there must be other massive things that can be sliced. Wait a second.
Yeah?
What if all these mangakas have a vendetta against meteors? So what if they're all dinosaurs?
What?
I mean, come on, man. Clearly they all have a seething hatred for meteors, and who else would hate meteors more than dinosaurs?
Sure. Anyways, while Natsu's magic is very vast, it isn't unlimited, and he can run out of it, which would leave him wide open to attacks. And that's not even Natsu's greatest weakness.
What is it? Water?
Worse. Motion sickness.
Huh. Who knew a fire-breathing dragon mage who also maybe be a zombie could have such a relatable weakness?
But despite his shortcomings, he is still a force to be reckoned with. So watch how evildoers who dare invade Fiora mess with his friends, as Natsu Dragneel would be more than happy to set your attempts ablaze in a fiery glory. For as long as he has his friends by his side, there isn't a foe who can best him, so think twice about getting on his bad side, as this Fire Dragon Slayer will make sure your victory is nothing more than a mere fairy tale.
What? Did you think I forgot about that little insult from before? Ha! I can handle the two of you myself. Come on, give me all you got.
Alright, the combatants are ready. Let's settle this. Will it be a stretch to say Luffy has this one in the bag?
Or will Natsu force the Emperor of the Sea to Dragneel to him?
It's time for these fictional characters to collide.
Well, I'll be damned. Guess the power of friendship means crap if your opponent hits you with an island-sized punch.
This was an intense clash, undoubtedly one of the closest matches we have ever seen in FCC history, and there were several scenarios where Natsu could have won, but he was ultimately outmatched by Luffy.
Yeah, there's a lot to go over in this conclusion, so let's break it down into 5 separate categories to see which character gets which points. Those categories being power, speed, intelligence and experience, and finally, abilities. Let's start off with power to see who was physically stronger out of the two.
In Luffy's base form, he was capable of splitting all of these clouds when he battled against Kaido. Judging by the sheer amount of clouds, this would require energy worth 1.3 petatons of TNT. At the time of writing this analysis, base form Luffy doesn't have a feat quite as impressive as this one. So 1.3 petatons for base form Luffy is fairly safe. But as stated by Bluno, when Luffy uses Gear 2, his strength is multiplied 10 times. So we can find out how strong Luffy is in Gear 2 by doing a simple 1.3 times 10 calculation. Based on this, in Gear 2, Luffy would be hitting at 13 petatons of TNT.
And as for Gear 5, not only did Luffy part these clouds with the badge ray gun, but he also punched Kaido so hard he got sent to the core of the freaking planet. Look at how big the One Piece planet is. Observing the size of Luffy's fist, the cloud is parted, and the fact that it sent a 5-mile-long dragon into the core of the planet, that would take about 1.5 zetatons of TNT to pull off.
Luckily, finding out how hard Natsu can hit is far easier via calculating how big Tenojima Island was when it sank from Aknolaga. Gauging the size of Tenojima Island is a bit tricky, but based on how massive this tree is, comparing it to Natsu's canonical height of 5'7" and laying it flat across the island, we can get a rough estimate that the island itself was around 5,000 meters in diameter, or about 3.1 miles in width.
Doing that would make Natsu and everyone else at Island capable of dishing out 200 gigatons of TNT each, which, while incredibly impressive, could have matched Luffy's clash with Kaido, which blows that feat of strength out of the water by several magnitudes of power.
Yes, but we can also scale Natsu to Urza. While yes, Urza is the stronger of the two, both have fought similar foes in strength and speed, and should be roughly on par with another. The same Urza who did this. Luckily, in this shot, we can see the curvature of the planet, and we can measure how high the dust and debris got into the atmosphere, rather than the cloud dispersion down below on the planet's surface. Doing that means that this would have been a blow worth 5 zetatons of TNT, over 3 times stronger than Gear 5's Bajrang gun.
Holy crap, Urza! Man, who thought putting her against Shovel Knight was a good idea?
Wasn't that your idea, Demon?
And this should be comparable to base form Natsu, which means his stronger forms should pack an even greater punch.
Which means Natsu takes the edge in raw power. Now for speed. Both fighters were not slow by any means. Both could react and dodge some seriously impressive attacks. But in this category, one of these two was clearly the faster one. Comparing Natsu to Urza once again, she was capable of intercepting Irene's meteor, which would need her moving around 46% the speed of light to pull off, and was capable of matching Nightwalker, who could move at 76% the speed of light.
Hell, Natsu himself was capable of reacting to Suzaki, a foe who's literally blitzed Natsu in the last arc. But that pales in comparison to Luffy, who can dodge those Pacifista lasers. Based on how far he moved his head and how far the Pacifitas were to Luffy, he must have been moving at 12 times the speed of light, and these are in fact actual lasers. Not only have they been described as lasers numerous times, the maker of Precipita's Dr. Vegapunk used bits of the Marine Admiral Kizaru's Devil Fruit, the Glint Glint Fruit, a Logia-type Devil Fruit that turns the entire user's body into light itself to make the mechanisms for these creatures.
And so, if that was base form Luffy doing that feat, and applying the 10 times multiplier for Gear 2, that means Luffy could react and move at 120 times the speed of light. That is leagues faster than anything Natsu could react to. Even Luffy in base form being 12 times the speed of light would make way faster than Natsu, so the Gear 2 boost was some massive overkill. And keep in mind that this was Luffy at the start of the time skip. There are feats that can make Luffy even faster in base form, like how base form Sanji outright took on and blocked a point-rank blast from Kizaru himself, and Luffy should be leagues above Sanji in terms of stats. So in terms of speed, Luffy takes it without question.
Now for intelligence. Both have been trained to be a pirate and use magic since they were kids. Both were trained by some of the strongest characters in either series, and both have battled a wide variety of opponents with bizarre powers.
And while yes, both are absolute idiots at points, but in battle it's a complete 180. Yeah, sometimes it devolves into, I just gotta hit him really hard. but for more complicated and trickier opponents, both have come up with genuinely unique and clever strategies.
Yeah, like look at Luffy's battle with Crocodile, whose Sand Logia Devil Fruit allowed him to be completely unaffected by any of Luffy's hits. That is until Luffy used liquid like water or his own blood to counter his Devil Fruit. Meanwhile, Natsu has come up with strategies mid-fight against foes before, and used his abilities to eat fire to give himself a power-up via melting an axe that was mere moments from slicing his head in half. So in this aspect, they seem to be equals with a case of for either, or gaining disadvantage. So for this category, it's a tie.
Now as for experience. You could make a case for Luffy having more experience due to the fact that Luffy has fought and battled alongside people who've used lightning and fire respectively. Luffy defeated Enel, whose whole power set was lightning-based attacks, and Luffy has fought alongside his brothers Ace and Sabo, who both at one point ate the flame fruit.
You could also make a case for Natsu having more experience due to the fact that he is older than Luffy and has fought wider array of opponents than what Luffy has gone up against. Since such Erigor's wind magic, Todomaru's rainbow magic, Macbeth's reflector magic, and even Sam Crow's very own fire god slayer magic.
You could make solid cases for both sides here. It's truly a tough call here and could really come down to a coin flip on to who gets this point, so ultimately, much like our previous category, experience is a draw.
But this leads to arguably our most important and final category of all, their abilities. Both are insanely powerful, with each having several devastating powers at their disposal, like how Luffy's Barjang Punch can dwarf an island the size of Hawaii, and Natsu's Fire Magic can melt through even something like Time Magic, and both have a fairly comparable ability with Armament Haki and Dragon Scales, respectively. At first glance, it was hard to tell who had the other beat.
But the more you look, the easier it was to see that Luffy had better powers. While Natsu eating fire did make him easily capable of countering Red Hawk and Red Rock, it likely wouldn't be enough fire to allow him to survive or fail a hit from Luffy, plus Natsu refuses to eat his own fire, so that was out of the question. And since Luffy is made of rubber, that would hard counter Natsu's own lightning magic, similar to how Luffy's rubber body hard counter Enel's lightning, limiting Natsu's options even more. Meanwhile, Natsu couldn't do anything against Luffy's Haki.
Yes, while Conqueror's Haki isn't insanely strong, it's likely will not do much to Natsu. While it does make the foe wills bend to the knees of the opponents, powerful characters like the Four Emperors, Law, Kid, and others have shown a resistance to it. And since Natsu was physically stronger, it's likely to have little to zero effect on Natsu at all.
But Observation Haki is a whole other story. With this, Luffy would be able to see and predict any of Natsu's moves, meaning that even if speed was equal, Luffy could still technically be faster, since he'd be able to see all of Natsu's moves before he'd even used them. It helps that Luffy is a master of it, able to outperform Katakuri's Observation Haki, who was a master of it at a young age and could see up to several seconds into the future with it. So Natsu landing any sort of blows on Luffy would be hard to do, much less anything truly fatal.
And speaking of Haki, Natsu has shown no way of countering Ryo, which would allow Luffy to blow him up from the inside out. So it wouldn't matter how tanky Natsu was, he wasn't surviving Luffy targeting his heart and proceeding to blow it up from the inside, bypassing his normal defenses. Plus, it's very important to understand that while Natsu's magic was extremely vast, it was ultimately finite, unlike Luffy, who couldn't really run out of his stretchiness since that was biological, not from an outside reserve like Natsu's magic.
And finally, the nail in Natsu's coffin in this category was that Gear 5, Luffy is really, really, really hard to kill, much less hurt to begin with. Yeah, while Natsu has fought against some crazy powers, Gear 5 was on a whole different level of crazy. So the point goes to Luffy.
There you have it, ladies and gents. Natsu takes raw power, Luffy takes speed and abilities, and both tied for intelligence and experience. Don't get us wrong, this was a very close battle, like previously stated. One of the closest we ever seen. Honestly, if we ran through this battle 100 or so times, Natsu probably would have won 40 out of 100 fights.
So in the end, while Natsu was the physically stronger foe, and his insane fire magic would have undoubtedly given Luffy the fight of his life, but this future king of the pirates with his overwhelming speed, better abilities, and Gear 5's nigh-on unkillability snuffed out this Dragon Slayer's flame for good.
Oh my boy, oh my god, Archer, can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead, Demon.
So are we saying that Luffy beats Natsu? Yep, we are.
The winner is Monkey D. Luffy.
Next time on Fictional Characters Collide.